Welcome to the Global WarWatch Network. Hey, if you enjoy getting clear, no-nonsense analysis on global security, do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Today, we are looking at an absolutely critical decision point, a choice that's facing both Israel and the U.S. that could very well trigger a brand new war with Iran in the Middle East. It really all boils down to this. A quiet, closed-door meeting happening in Washington could be the one thing that decides whether the Middle East spirals back into all-out war. And let's be real, this isn't just some distant regional politics. We're talking about a potential flashpoint with consequences for the entire world. So, to really wrap our heads around what's at stake here, we're going to walk through this together, step by step. We'll kick things off with the meeting itself. Then we'll look at the intelligence that's driving this real sense of urgency. After that, we'll break down exactly what Israel is asking for and dig into the incredibly tough choice that Washington is facing. Then we'll zoom out and explore the potential ripple effects across the region before we land on the one crucial question that kind of sums this whole thing up. Okay, first things first, let's set the stage. We need to look at who's meeting in Washington and get to the bottom of why this conversation is so critical, right here, right now. The purpose of this meeting is, well, incredibly direct. Prime Minister Netanyahu is heading to the U.S. with a very specific goal in mind. He wants to convince President Trump to give his backing for renewed Israeli military action against Iran. So the big question is, why the sudden urgency? And that brings us right to the ticking clock. See, this isn't just some random political maneuver. It's being driven by some pretty alarming new intelligence that has put Israel on high alert. The real catalyst here is an Israeli intelligence dossier. And what it purportedly shows is that Iran isn't just recovering from the last conflict. It's actively, and more importantly, rapidly rebuilding its most dangerous offensive weapons. And this intel isn't vague. It reportedly points to renewed activity at missile production sites and storage facilities, with a special focus on medium and long-range missiles, the kind that can easily reach Israel. The pace seems to be accelerated, with the goal of quickly getting back the deterrent power that was weakened in the previous conflict. Now, this intelligence comes with some really critical context from that conflict back in June 2025. While Israel's missile defense systems were really effective, they also used up a huge portion of the country's stock of very expensive interceptors. So while Iran is busy rebuilding its offensive arsenal, Israel is acutely aware that its own defensive capabilities are not infinite. This brings us to Israel's specific request. What does Prime Minister Netanyahu actually mean when he asks Washington for a green light? It's really important to get this distinction. A green light isn't formal permission to go to war. It's more of a signal of strategic alignment. It's a sign that the U.S. politically supports the action Israel feels it has to take, making sure it doesn't have to act totally alone on the world stage. This support really breaks down into 4 concrete areas. First, political backing, just to lend legitimacy to the strikes. Second, continued access to the massive U.S. intelligence network. Third, diplomatic cover, which means the U.S. would use its influence at places like the United Nations to shield Israel from international condemnation. And fourth, and this is maybe the most important part, an agreement for the accelerated resupply of defensive systems, especially those interceptors we just talked about. So this request, as you can imagine, presents a pretty profound strategic dilemma for the U.S. administration. It puts them at a major crossroads. The dilemma here lays out some clear benefits versus some truly massive risks. On one hand, supporting Israel could deter Iran and reinforce a key alliance. But the risks, they are immense. We're talking about potential retaliation against U.S. forces, chaos in global energy markets, and getting tangled up in another long, messy regional war. This quote just captures the danger perfectly. Think about it. The goal of a controlled demolition is to safely bring down a threat. But if anything at all goes wrong with an unstable structure, you risk an uncontrolled collapse that could bring the whole neighborhood down with it. That is the very essence of the risk that Washington is weighing right now. So beyond the immediate decision, we have to consider the regional fallout. A new conflict would not be contained, no way. It would create a massive ripple effect across the entire Middle East. One way to think about this is to picture the region's security as a fragile, interconnected web, but a web made of glass threads. It's not just a series of isolated issues. A powerful strike doesn't just break one thread, it sends shattering vibrations through the entire structure. And here's what some of those vibrations could look like. The long-running shadow war could just erupt into open, sustained combat. We could see global energy prices spike and critical shipping lanes get disrupted. Alliances would be strained, and any fragile peace efforts that are currently underway in the region could just collapse overnight. Now, for its part, Iran maintains its missile program is purely defensive and totally non-negotiable. And Tehran has been very clear, warning that any attack will be met with a decisive and proportional response, leaving little doubt they intend to retaliate, and retaliate forcefully. And all of this, the intelligence, the request, the risks, and the ripple effects, it all brings us to the final, unanswered question at the very core of this decision. This is what it all boils down to. What is the greater danger here? Is it the risk of inaction now, or the danger of an immediate, unpredictable escalation later? There is no easy answer, and honestly, Washington's choice could very well define the future of the Middle East. And that's all for this explainer. If you found this valuable, please do us a huge favor and like, share, and subscribe to the Global WarWatch Network. Let us know your thoughts down in the comments, and you can find all our social media links in the description below.